In Pursuit of Truth, this is your host, Sir Patrick Mac. Pardon the intrusion, but just so there's no confusion, there is no collusion. Our friends on the unhinged left are not yet ready to accept that, and they continue their attacks on what appears to be an immovable object.
Round one, fight!
That thing is not moving, and neither am I, because there's a lot of Q to do. 3176 is where we last left you heroes. 28 minutes after the hour 12. We get a select group of tweets right here from Tom Steyer, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Dances with Wolves, Warren, Joy Reid, Mark Warner, Jay Inslee, and Senator Jeff Merkley. Oh, they've all got something in common. It seems that their tweets come out on the 24th of March, and they all say hand-picked, almost like their tweets were hand-picked. Let's choose one, shall we? Barr was handpicked because he said the president couldn't be charged with obstruction, and guess what? He decided no obstruction. Shocker! Elizabeth Dances with Wolves. Warren says Congress voted 420-0 to release the full Mueller report. Not a summary from his hand-picked Attorney General A.G. Barr. Make the full report public immediately. Kamala Harris says the Mueller report needs to be made public. The underlying investigative materials should be handed over to Congress, and Barr must testify. That is what transparency looks like. A short letter from Trump's hand-picked Attorney General is not sufficient. Okay, so it looks like AG Barr's got a new name. It's hand-picked. Then we get this cover right here from Time, and I think we clearly see what this is implying, right? The White House is being taken over by the Kremlin. Oh, I see. Sounds extreme. People around the world are waking up to the fact, not fiction, that the corporate Democratic Party politically controlled 6 corporations own 90% of the media. Fake news is not unbiased journalism, but politically motivated and controlled statements, not facts. Think for yourself and stop being a sheep to their narrative. They will be held accountable. Nobody walks away from this. All right, well, I think we all see what's up, right? No collusion. And, the left doesn't really know where to go with this at this point. Their only real thing is to just kind of keep adding on to this whole McCarthyism, right? It's like a new Red Scare. Now AG Barr is handpicked, and it looks like he's working for the Kremlin because they're taking over the White House. And that's how this was all set up, right? Panic, panic, panic in D.C. Let's move on to the next post. 3177, 35 minutes after the hour of 12. Q is responding to an Anon on a previous bread, meaning a previous thread on the Q research board here. And I got it all uppity blowy right here. This is a screenshot from the Daily Beast. William Barr, I can conceive of situations where journalists might be jailed as last resort. And this Anon is taking the connection between this reference of the last resort to Q's reference of last resort in post 3115 from the 18th of March. Mueller report delay. Panic, panic, panic in D.C. The real panic comes in the form of a last resort. Plus 21, plus 2, plus 4. So the Anon is making the connection there. And Q doesn't necessarily confirm directly, but says, why didn't POTUS fire Rod Rowe after reporting regarding offer to wear wire? Rod Rowe being Rod Rosenstein. Well, I would assume the whole idea is they were trying to get him to create some sort of obstruction, right? I would imagine that's the whole point of getting him to wear a wire. And of course, they were trying to invoke a particular amendment that would say that the POTUS was not fit for president, right? Why did Whitaker Barr retain Rod Rowe to the end? Well, I've said this all along. Remember, the bus analogy. This is the bus. It's Rod Rowe's bus. And when the wheels come off, it's got to be Rod Rowe that stands there and takes responsibility for it by raising the POTUS's hand in victory, right? Now, keep in mind, I've mentioned this before too. This was not the original plan to have Rod Rowe overlook this. It was supposed to be Andrew McCabe, and that's a very, very big deal, right? Next thing you know, Rod Rowe's in the dough. And guess who leaves? shortly thereafter, yes, one James Comey, right? So this kind of threw a little bit of a wrench into their whole operation. Now, Rod Rowe was very, very popular amongst the deep state, so they trusted him. So I don't really think they caught on right away, but I tend to think that Rod Rowe and Mueller are cooperating. Now, I'm not saying they're white hats. I don't think it's quite that simple, but I think there is some definite reconciling that needs to be done. Remember who Rod Rowe's wife is, Lisa Barsumian, right? And of course, we all know about Robert Mueller. They've both got a few things they need to reconcile with. So, is that why Whitaker and Barr retained Rod Rowe to the end? Well, the optics are really important. Like I said, it needs to be Rod Rowe to raise POTUS's hand in victory. Who signed off on the Mueller summary report submitted by Barr yesterday? I would assume it'd be Rod Rowe. Who signed fraudulent FISA warrants? Well, lots of people did, but one of them was Rod Rowe. James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Sally Yates. Who appointed Mueller as special counsel? Rod Rowe. Who has full control? Chuck Norris. And the POTUS. I'm going to assume it's the POTUS. The POTUS. Optics are very important. Yeah, the POTUS has been able to drop this bacony cheesy any moment he wanted to. But of course he didn't, because he allowed all these cockroaches to go scurrying with just the threat of it. Now, like I've said before too, this FISA D-class has already started to trickle out. We've seen it in the form of testimony, text messages. Day by day, we're getting more and more information. It's got the deep state in a panic, right? But the optics are very important because, as we see right here, within one day, they go to work on their own optics by saying handpicked. So the next time you hear AG Barr, you're going to think, oh, that's handpicked, right? That's optics. And the POTUS knows that this is the game being played against him, but at the same time, POTUS can't use these same kind of tactics that same way. Kind of has to, if you notice, he maintained about a 48-hour amount of silence after this whole no collusion announcement, right? He let the optics be what they were going to be. The optics are what is really going to bring down the mainstream media because they're panicking and they don't really have any kind of choice now. Look, there's not going to be any other investigations. There's not going to be any other indictments. This is going to switch right into the DNC and hopefully the Clinton Foundation. Now, it remains to be seen, but the optics are very important and the POTUS is doing a very good job at playing those. He can't make it look like he's going to just go ahead and turn on all his enemies. That's what they want him to do by showing this, right? They want him to go directly after him. They wanted him to fire Rod Rowe, right? So it's been the POTUS's use of restraint, which has really allowed the optics to shift in his favor. And I think we're just going to see more of that. Let's move on. Post 3178, 43 minutes after the hour at 12. Q spraying us with the caps lock. The only way to regain the trust regarding equal justice under the law, regarding White House, regarding Intel, regarding FBI, regarding DOJ, Senate, regarding Congress, regarding Five Eyes, regarding our government of the majority of the American people, is to provide truth, transparency, and prosecution of all those who knowingly took part in this illegal, manufactured effort, attempted coup, to take down the President of the United States. And let's face it, that's essentially what this was, right? Attempted coup. Now, this is going to be painted every which way for the next few months, but that's the fact of the matter. And then we get this one in brackets. Q says one opens the door, the great awakening.
Got a flashback of signs, yeah, take you back, yeah.
Taking you back, but not too far back. You could probably find your way home if you wanted. 10th of March, not that far. 3004. And we see this one highlighted here. Is this what Q is turning us on to? Now, it first took us to this Twitter link to Paul Sperry's status that says, breaking, McCabe investigated not just Trump, but Sessions too. Ordering the Sessions probe was another unprecedented partisan action that has been forgotten, said former federal prosecutor Solomon L. Weisenberg, partner at Nelson Mullins in Washington. And this is very important to know. McCabe investigating not just Trump, but Sessions too. Remember, there are a lot of people were being investigated. Trump was just another casualty of this. They didn't even know if Trump was going to eventually run against Hillary or not. This spying was going on well before this. So what's important about this, I think, and I think why Q might be turning us on to this, is that what we're doing right now is, now that there's no collusion, we're starting to see the Democrats trying to control the narrative like they always do, right? And oftentimes the POTUS allows them to do that by stepping back. Remember, Q just said optics are important. Okay, so Sessions was a Trump guy. They didn't like Sessions. Sessions vote 52-47. Rod Roe, however, was a different story. Senate vote was 94-6. So they trusted him. And now that the wheels are coming off the bus and Rod Roe has likely signed off on all this, well, it starts to compromise the origins of all of this. And that's what's really important in shifting the narrative. Now, we have to kind of think about all the people who hate Trump, not the people who understand so much of this like you or me. Most of this is really for the people who aren't really sure what's going on. They're starting to see that this is all falling apart, but they're not really sure where this lies, right? For 2 years, Mueller was their guy. And now all of a sudden in the last 48 hours, they're starting to realize, hey, this guy didn't do enough. They're already trying to shape that, right? Then they're going to do it to Rod Roe. Then they're going to do it to McCabe. So I think what this is the one opening the door is showing that this was very, very seditious, and this was being done on everybody, their guys included. And that's going to really, really shift the narrative for a lot of those people who maybe don't hate Trump or previously hated Trump, or, you know, who knows? I don't really think politics is the matter at this point. People who just want to see this end, they're going to start saying, okay, where did this come from? And of course, at this point, that's where a lot of us can step in, the people who realize that this was ordered all the way from the top from Obama, right? So I think that's really going to be the case. It's a little bit asinine and definitely doesn't move as fast as we'd like to. But I think if you really want to be systematic and, understand that we still have to play the political game too, there's a presidential office that we'd like to hold in 2 years too. So that's what this is, it seems to lend to. And that's why the bacony, cheesy bites are coming out one day at a time. Post 3179, 44 minutes after the hour of 12. Q says, listen and watch Sean Hannity today. Okay, well, Q posted these posts late, and Hannity comes on a little bit late for me, so I can't do both and make this video and get something out in time for you. So I tried to download it, and I made a little montage. Now, I'm not exactly sure what Q is referring to, but let's check it out.
Oh, it's a montage, because we ain't trying to watch the whole dang thing now.
Let's start with Rachel Maddow's audience. They have been sold one conspiracy theory night after night after night, lie night after night after night. 22 months, she has profited from these lies to her audience on a spectacular level. Frankly, she and her so-called colleagues, so-called mainstream media, so-called journalists, they should be embarrassed tonight. They should feel humiliated tonight. They should be apologizing tonight to the American people. Avenatti was indicted in 2 federal separate cases surrounding fraud and extortion. And after Attorney General Barr released the summary yesterday of the Mueller report, well, there's FBI Director Comey tweeting, so many questions, which Senator Lindsey Graham replied, couldn't agree with you more. See you soon.
Here's what I want to find out. Did they exonerate Clinton because they had a political bias? Did they ignore all the facts because if they indict her, they know she can't beat Trump and they wanted Trump to lose? Was the counterintelligence investigation a backdoor way of spying on Trump? There's real no evidence of working with Russia. They just used it as an excuse. Was the FISA warrant obtained unlawfully based on fraudulent documentation to surveil the campaign?
What will you do? Tell us the steps that you will take. You will play
Great question.
A very pivotal role here, sir.
First thing I want to do is find out why they got a warrant against Carter Page if the dossier was a bunch of garbage. What did you have beyond the dossier? Why didn't you listen to Bruce Orr? At the end of the day, how could you use this document that's unverified to this day to get a warrant on 4 different occasions? I want to find out all about that. I want to know if the email investigation was basically dropped because they had a political bias. I want to know if the counterintelligence investigation, why didn't you warn Trump that you thought the Russians were trying to infiltrate his campaign? Why didn't you tell him what you told Dianne Feinstein?
Right.
Well, so the reason I think they didn't tell him about the Russians infiltrating his campaign is that they wanted to infiltrate his campaign, not the Russians.
You now have the ability to make public, and the president will have the ability to make public the FISA warrants, the 302s, the Gang of 8 information. and
Right.
these other buckets, the 5 buckets I always talk
Yeah,
about.
right,
How
right.
important is it that the American people see that besides the Mueller, conclusions?
I've been pretty consistent. I said I thought Mueller was the right guy to look into the allegations against President Trump. He was a man of the law. He had a great reputation. And I fought to make sure he could do his job. He has rendered his verdict. There is no collusion. Now it's time to look at how this got off the rails. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use every tool available to me, disclose as much as I can without compromising source and methods to make sure the public understands how their president could be accused of working with a foreign government when there's real no basis in fact. This should scare everybody. Did the investigators, did the prosecutors use the law for political purposes? If that turns out to be true, that is bigger than Watergate. Did they try to take him down after he got elected? Was there a real effort to invoke the 25th Amendment?
Looks like
well,
it.
I don't know, Sean, but nobody seems to give a damn but me and you and a few other people.
That's not true!
Well, you have collusion. You have collusion between the Democrat Party, the media, and the Obama administration. Hillary Clinton, she's been silent for 3 or 4 days, hasn't she? Barack Obama's been silent throughout all this, hasn't he? For all the talk of the Democrats who run these committees, they don't want to talk to Hillary Clinton. They don't want to talk to Barack Obama. They want transparency. I want transparency. Here's the impeachment clause of the Constitution. Treason, bribery, other high crimes and misdemeanors. I can name people who've committed treason, other high crimes and misdemeanors. He's not in the White House. They're members of Congress. We have a big problem in this country. The Democrat Party is not a pro-American party. They lost an election. They had like a third world party. They want to destroy the president and the presidency. No obstruction and no collusion. But it is time to focus on the Democrats in the House. It is time to focus on the media and the Hillary campaign, the DNC, Barack Obama. This was Barack Obama's government that did all this. When the Russians were interfering with our election, they were interfering with our election when Comey was the FBI director, when Clapper was the head of intelligence, when Brennan was the head of the CIA, when Loretta Lynch was head of the Department of Justice. They went after the candidate of the opposition party. They put spies in his campaign.
He's right. Do you know that?
So there you go. There's a few highlights for you, but it looks like we are now playing offense. Let's go ahead and move on to 3180. 55 minutes after the hour of 12, Q takes us to this Twitter status right here. It says, listen very carefully. Digest the full gravity of what the President of the United States says in this clip. And it takes you to the Twitter page of John Nassif. A hint of things to come. There are no coincidences, we are told. Fire at will, Commander. And this is a clip from the POTUS meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu the other day. Check it out.
So did this turn out to not be a witch hunt after all? You think Robert Mueller did a...
It's lasted a long time. We're glad it's over. It's 100% the way it should have been. I wish it could have gone a lot sooner, a lot quicker. There are a lot of people out there that have done some very, very evil things, very bad things, I would say treasonous things against our country. And hopefully that people that have done such harm to our country, we've gone through a period of really bad things happening. Those people will certainly be looked at. I've been looking at them for a long time, and I'm saying, why haven't they been looked at? They lied to Congress. Many of them, you know who they are. They've done so many evil things. I will tell you, I love this country. I love this country as much as I can love anything. My family, my country, my God. But what they did, it was a false narrative. It was a terrible thing. We can never let this happen to another president again. I can tell you that. I say it very strongly. Very few people I know could have handled it. We can never, ever let this happen to another president again.
So there you go. That was the loudest I could get that audio there. But the POTUS said 100% the way it should be, which implies that this was kind of part of how it was supposed to go all along, right? Robert Mueller and Rod Rowe, like we were just talking about earlier. But yeah, this definitely cannot happen to another president at all. There's a lot of things that you can take away from this. And of course, POTUS also said that he's been keeping his eye on them the whole time. Let's move on to 3181, 59 minutes after the hour of 12. We got Lady Justice right here. Q says, blind justice under the law will return to our republic. There is a reason why a sword is held. And you can see Lady Justice there holding the scales and balances right there, and the sword in the other hand. The sword represents authority, and it also is a reminder that justice is swift and final.
You lose.
Post 3182, 26 minutes after the hour of 4. Q says, thank you, Anons, for bringing this to our attention. Be careful who you follow. Follow the money. Follow the expenses. And then we've got a series of links here. The first one takes you to the MAGAcoalition.com. Now, I want to point out, and probably a lot of you already know this, that this site was taken down for quite some time. It appears to have popped up just in the last hour, at least for me. But I want to point out also that Sebastian Gorka used to be the chief strategist for this MAGA coalition. Okay, it seems to be a pretty pro-MAGA group, right? Now, the second link takes us to this, opensecrets.org. Talking about the MAGA coalition, and here's their expenditures, and you can see there's a pie graph. This much was spent on yellow, and this much was spent on baby blue, while reserving just a little bit over here for teal and orange, and then over here we've got a slice of key lime. Yeah, you can see what's up. So here's where I want to talk about, though. Here's a couple of the top vendors and recipients, and one that stuck out was this Adam Gingrich, and he's a big player in this MAGA coalition here. Titanium Law Group, David Horowitz Freedom Center, and so on and so forth. Now, it looks like these guys take in only about $110,000 annually, and yet one of their biggest contributors contributed about $100,000. So something seems a little bit weird here. Now, the next link takes us to this. This is an older article from the Daily Beast. Sebastian Gorka leaves Pizzagate Super PAC, being this MAGA coalition. And it says right here, Sebastian Gorka's post-White House tenure with a group founded by Pizzagate conspiracy theorists was short-lived. After Gorka's August ouster from the White House, where he served as a counterterrorism advisor, the notorious Sidewalk Parker joined the MAGA coalition, a pro-Trump super PAC founded and run by individuals who have promoted conspiracy theories surrounding the 2016 murder of DNC staffer Seth Rich and raised questions about former Hillary Clinton campaign chair John Podesta supposedly running a child sex trafficking ring out of the basement of a D.C. pizzeria. Now, here's the important part. Gorka wasn't with the group for long. According to a source familiar with the situation, he left the MAGA coalition a few weeks ago after securing a paid contributorship with Fox News. The group continues to promote Gorka heavily on its home page. All right, so Sebastian Gorka getting called out by Q. Now, the next link here takes you here to Brian Cates. The MAGA Coalition Super PAC gave Gregory Ciccone a combined $60,000 in 3 payments, 2 payments of $15,000 each, and one $30,000 payment. And there we see one of the payments right there of $30,000 to that said Platinum Enterprises. Now, Brian does a great thread, and unfortunately I don't have the time to cover it all, but let me go ahead and sum some of this up here. Brian says, what the fake fundraising PACs do is they find a shady vendor who will agree to overcharge them for services with the understanding that after the vendor takes an agreed upon cut, the rest of the money is returned under the table. As far as the donors who gave their hard-earned money know, their donations were spent by the PAC on legitimate expenses. In fact, little of the money was spent on real services. The rest of it was laundered under the table, and now the PAC owners can do whatever they want with it. This is how you wind up with absurd FEC filings from Tea Party PACs a few years back, where they're claiming it cost $20,000 to build a single website. They simply disperse the money to the vendors in small payments, so you won't notice what they're doing. The next link takes you to the IRS.gov. How do you report suspected tax fraud activity? We're not going to go through the hows here. You can check it out if you need to report it. The second link here is how to submit a tip. So Q is giving us a little bit of tips and tricks on how to report this kind of stuff. After all, it looks like Q is getting turned on to this too. Thank you, Anons, for bringing this to our attention. Well, we definitely know there was some tax fraud with this Ciccone guy. Here it is right here off of FBI.gov. Woodland Park man admits scheme to defraud more than 17 charities and nonprofit organizations. I know, right? And there it is right there. Gregory Ciccone, 36 of Woodland Park. Okay, so do we have some fake MAGA amongst us? You can tell me what you think about Sebastian Gorka. And keep in mind, too, his wife, Catherine, is a security analyst, Hungarian. And, outwardly, she's always been kind of criticized as being anti-Muslim. And I would not be surprised if she was wrapped up in this MAGA coalition somehow, too. But we do know that although outwardly Sebastian Gorka has been pretty pro-POTUS since his release from the White House, he is definitely not pro-Q, which would make me wonder why the conundrum. Let's move on for now. Post 3183, 36 minutes after the hour of 4, we get this Politico link right here. Q says, do you believe in coincidences? What coincidences? From Politico, judge overseeing key Jeffrey Epstein-related suit dies. An elderly federal judge presiding over a key lawsuit relating to financier pedophile Jeffrey Epstein died Sunday, adding another twist to the drawn-out legal saga and to efforts to unseal still secret details about the conduct of Epstein, his enablers, and one of his accusers. Manhattan-based U.S. District Court Judge Robert Sweet passed away Sunday at age 96, the court announced. Sweet was appointed by President Jimmy Carter in 1978, confirmed that same year, and continued to hear and rule on cases through the last few months. Sweet was assigned to a lawsuit that emerged from the aftermath of Epstein's controversial plea deal a decade ago, in which he escaped federal charges by pleading guilty to 2 prostitution-related offenses in state court. Epstein ended up spending 13 months in jail, with daily furloughs that allowed him to work in his office. Critics have denounced the plea deal and the government official who negotiated it. Alexander Acosta, then the top federal prosecutor in South Florida and now U.S. Secretary of Labor. The sentence, critics say was excessively lenient for a man who faced allegations of procuring dozens of teenage girls for sex acts. The sex trafficking lawsuit that Sweet oversaw pitted one of Epstein's alleged victims, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, against a longtime a friend of Epstein and heir to a newspaper fortune, Ghislaine Maxwell. And she was another one of those that was bringing all the crew over there for Epstein. Okay, so very interesting stuff. Now, this guy was 96 years old, to be fair, so it shouldn't be that much of a surprise, but it most certainly, given the timing, seems to be quite the coincidence. Now, I just want to point out on a quick side note, there was this recent movie, Leaving Neverland. Maybe some of you have seen it. I have not, but I guess it features a couple of Michael Jackson's accusers, and of course, it does not paint him in a very good light. Now, to be fair to Michael Jackson, he was never convicted of anything, although to be fair to the rest of us, he never exactly showed glowing signs of innocence, right? So you guys can think whatever you want about that, but the point I want to make about it, at least in regards to right now, is it seems like the timing was very coincidental, if you will. After all, we've got this Jeffrey Epstein case. We've got the R. Kelly arrest, and I think that was probably to take some pressure off of that. I likely think that the R. Kelly arrest is going to lead us to more NXIVM arrests, and I also want to toss another name in there for you because people keep forgetting Les Moonves from Viacom, CBS. I don't think we're just done with him, but I do think that there is a distraction going on, and I think that Neverland movie was likely for that case. After all, it's easy to kind of pin things on somebody once they're already dead, right? Let's go ahead and move on to 3184. We get this Twitter link right here. Q says, you are the news now, and it takes us to our boy, Dr. Benjamin Rush. And he just posted this graphic here. Fox News just put this picture up. Following Q, are you Fox News? Yeah, well, it would seem that they are. I left him a little comment. Looks like your post was hand-picked, and it looks like a lot of you guys jumped on this. I recognize a lot of you guys here. Very nice. So congratulations to Benjamin Rush for getting your call out to the good doctor. You are the news now. Let's move on to 3185. We get this link right here to the Justice Department's Twitter. Alleged dark web child pornography facilitator extradited to the United States to face federal charges. From Justice.gov, Irish authorities extradited a dual national citizen of the United States and Ireland to the United States to face federal charges that he allegedly advertised and distributed child pornography on the dark web. The extradition and federal charges were announced by Assistant Attorney General Brian A. Benkowski of the Justice Department's Criminal Division, U.S. Attorney Robert K. Herr for the District of Maryland, and Assistant Director Robert Johnson of the FBI's Criminal Investigation Division. Eric Owen Marquez, 33, arrived in the United States States on March 23rd and had his initial appearance today before U.S. Magistrate Judge Timothy J. Sullivan in U.S. District Court in Greenbelt, Maryland. An amended criminal complaint was filed on August 8, 2013 and unsealed today at Marquez's initial appearance. Marquez is charged with conspiracy to advertise child pornography, conspiracy to distribute child pornography, aiding and abetting the advertising of child pornography, and aiding and abetting the distribution of child pornography. At the hearing, U.S. Magistrate Judge Sullivan ordered that Marquez be detained pending trial or a detention hearing scheduled for March 27, 2019 at 11:30 a.m. All right, well, fantastic. It's always good when we can get some of these knuckleheads behind bars. Now, keep in mind, this is not a conviction as of yet, but he is being charged, and it sounds like some pretty damning charges. Let's move on. Post 3186, 46 minutes after the hour of 4, we get this daily least link right here. Gambino mob boss shooting suspect was radicalized by QAnon far right, even Trump, lawyer says. Oh boy. An attorney for the Staten Island man accused of killing a reputed Gambino mob boss says the 24-year-old suspect was influenced by far right internet rhetoric and radicalized by the QAnon conspiracy theory and President Donald Trump. Anthony Comello appeared in a St. George criminal court Monday and was arraigned on charges including murder, assault, and criminal possession of a weapon in connection with the March 13th shooting death of Francesco Frankie Boy Cali outside his home, which I want to point out, this guy was kind of a made man at a pretty young age, this Frankie Boy Cali, so he actually kind of did some people a favor if you ask me, but just saying. Anyway, we talked about this a while back, and this guy came. Here's a picture of him right here. And he supposedly got these Q scribbles on his hands and whatever. Now, take this for what you will, but I do have a few sources that were inside this courtroom that stated that this guy looked whacked out of his mind when he walked in, and that they did not originally see that on his hand. So they're wondering themselves how that got onto his hand, if he was encouraged to do that or whatnot. But I think we get the idea, whether we know the specifics or not. This is just another opportunity for the knuckleheads from the Daily Beast and wherever else to try and pin this on this QAnon quote-unquote conspiracy, right? We've seen this time after time again. Q says, when the constant barrage of fake news attacks fail, those who are the biggest threats. Nothing to see here. And then we get a number 2, Q. I would assume that Q is referring to QAnon as number 2. Q has said many times that the POTUS is the number 1 attack person in the country, and number 2 would be QAnon, and that makes sense given the context right here. Nothing to see here. Let's move on to 3187, 21 minutes after the hour of 5. We get a Fox News link right here. Trump allies await results of 2 internal probes that could expose Russia investigation backstory. Following the revelation that Special Counsel Robert Mueller unearthed no evidence that President Trump or his campaign colluded with Russia to sway the 2016 election, Trump allies are now awaiting the results of 2 long-running internal probes that could expose the backstory behind the Russia probe's beginnings and provide more detail on already documented misconduct among top FBI and DOJ officials. DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz confirmed at a panel discussion last week that his office is continuing to review potential surveillance abuses by the FBI. A review that began last March and that Fox News is told is nearing completion. So that's real key right there, nearing completion. Horowitz has previously found that senior FBI officials routinely leaked information without authorization to the media and also received improper gifts from reporters, including meals and sporting event tickets. Most notably, Horowitz found that FBI officials' anti-Trump communications raised doubts as to the integrity of their work. Republicans, meanwhile, are increasingly looking for answers from U.S. Attorney for Utah, John Huber, who was appointed a year ago by former Attorney General Jeff Sessions to review not only surveillance abuses by the FBI and the DOJ, but also authorities' handling of the probe into the Clinton Foundation. Huber, Republicans have cautioned, has apparently made little progress and spoken to few key witnesses and whistleblowers. But in January, then Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker reportedly indicated at a private meeting that Huber's work was continuing apace. Okay, so interesting stuff, and it looks like I said, we are back on offense. Here's what Kellyanne Conway had to say about Adam Schiff in regards to all of this.
Then you have Adam Schiff. Talk about an oxymoron. This man heads the Intelligence Committee in the House. He said, quote, he believed that the scandal was of a size and a scope probably bigger than Watergate and that there's plenty of evidence of collusion. He ought to resign today, basically calling the President of the United States a Russian asset or a Russian agent. And
John
that
Brennan
goes
in particular.
beyond
John Brennan in
many
particular.
people,
Now
many
listen,
TV lawyers, many people
Kellyanne,
letting the lie fly. You were demeaning and deriding our great democracy, the presidency of the United States. Adam Schiff should resign. He has no right as somebody who has been peddling a lie day after day after day, unchallenged and not under oath.
Okay, so you get the idea there. Kellyanne Conway firing across the bow. Now, keep in mind, because Horowitz and Huber are still wrapping up, a lot of this information is still classified, and that's why the FISA has not been fully declassed, right? And of course, that's also why the Democrats are pushing for this to be released, because they know that, and they know that would compromise the information. So they're using the public narrative to their advantage the best they can by saying, you need to declass this right now, when we know that's not the case, because there's still grand juries being formed. Now, some of these grand juries have actually exonerated some people, and rightfully so, but we also know that the FISA signees have grand juries formed against them too. So it remains to be seen when this will be released, but that would be the tactic that the Democrats are using, because they know that if they release it out to the public, then it would likely not be admissible in court anymore. Let's move on to 3188, 23 minutes after the hour 5. We are talking about this group called threatknowledge.org. Threatknowledge.org is tracked by us since January 2016. Over the time, it has been ranked as high as 740,481 in the world, while most of its traffic comes from the USA, where it reached as high as 101,231 position. All this time, it was owned by Catherine Gorka of Threat Knowledge Group, LLC. It was hosted by GoDaddy.com. Nice. And here is a vendor receipt here for Threat Knowledge Group from the MAGA Coalition, $60,000. Oh, it pays to be MAGA these days, huh? And then we see this private company profile located out of McLean, Virginia. Very interesting. Threat Knowledge Group, LLC. Nice. And this is per the previous spread, Q. Repost all pics. Another 60K recipient from MAGA Coalition. So there you go. Website gone, however. Look, it was owned by pic-related Notice HQ City. So it looks like they probably took some of this information down too. So good on these Anons for screenshotting this. But it does not surprise me to see Sebastian Gorka's wife involved in some knuckleheadedry. And Q confirms. Post 3189, 9 minutes after the hour of 6. And Anon links us to this John Solomon tweet, which links us to a John Solomon article. And we're not going to cover this whole thing because it's rather lengthy. Trump-Russia collusion story did affect an American election. The ones Dems won in 2018, my latest column. And you can see here by just some of the highlighted words what's really going on here. President Trump, Hillary Clinton, Perkins Coie. We all know this story very, very well, right? Democratic operative working with Ukraine's embassy in Washington. Ukrainian lawmaker feeding information to Fusion GPS. So it talks about how all of this didn't really so much affect the 2016 election, but really the 2018 midterms, and that's what's highlighted down here. Polls showed the impact of the Russia coverage on voters. About half of American voters declared they believed Trump or his aides had colluded with Russia, even though they hadn't. So once we realized that that is not the case, I wonder how they're going to treat this whole thing, but it really, really is pretty incredible. And imagine what would have happened had we also won the House. John Solomon's latest Trump-Russia collusion story did affect an American election, the ones Dems won in 2018, my latest column. So it is a good column, but like I said, we got a ton of Q here to do, so I think you get the idea. Let's move on. Post 3190, 22 minutes after the hour of 7, we get a Twitter status to the Hill. Q says, without a blockade, shield being the Mueller investigation, they are left vulnerable, exposed. And let's check out that tweet. Looks like it's Sarah Huckabee Sanders speaking out in front of the White House. Let's hear what she's got to say.
It's also a sad reminder of the lack of accountability that started to seep into the media and into Democrats that have gone out for the last 2 years, actually over 2 years, and accused the president, the United States president, of being an agent of a foreign government. Take a second and let that sink in. Take a minute and realize how outrageous and how serious and how malicious an accusation like that is. They literally accused the president of the United States of being an agent for a foreign government. That's equivalent to treason. That is punishable by death in this country.
Yeah, let that sink in. That's not just treasony. That's bacon-y treasony. So let that sink in. Take a breath with that. Bacon-y treasony. Feel better. 3191, 13 minutes after the hour 9. We got this sweet pic right here. Donald Trump doing some of the dirty work. Looks like he's exterminating, but also painting at the same time. And he's whistling while he works with his kissy duck face that girls like to make on their Instagram. And of course, we're erasing this legacy of all this mess right here. Worst presidential painting ever. We get this Twitter link to The Hill. Just in, Justice Department sides with court ruling Obamacare unconstitutional. The DOJ on Monday announced that it is siding with the district court ruling that found the Affordable Care Act unconstitutional. The move is an escalation of the Trump administration's legal battle against the health care law. The DOJ previously argued in court that the law's pre-existing condition protections should be struck down. Now, the administration argues the entire law should be invalidated. U.S. District Court Judge Reed O'Connor ruled in December that the Affordable Care Act's individual mandate is unconstitutional and that the rest of the law is therefore invalid. The DOJ on said Monday that it agrees the decision should stand as the case works its way through the appeals process in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. Very, very nice. Just another example of how POTUS is erasing the legacy of one Barack Hussein Obama, who had the worst presidential portrait ever. Very nice. So let me know what you guys think about this. My experience with this healthcare act, of course, was a nightmare, which I'm sure is a lot like your stories too. But if there's anyone out there who had any good stories regarding it, I'd be happy to hear that too. But once again, looks like we're erasing one of the first signs of socialized healthcare. Let's move on to 3192. 18 minutes after the hour 9, we get a couple Twitter links. The first one takes you right here. First one takes you to Ryan Saavedra, who is breaking news that some of us told you 8 months ago. The Pentagon has notified Congress that it has authorized the transfer of $1 billion to begin new wall construction along the U.S.-Mexico border. Okay, well, it sounds like great news. You're welcome for the breaking scoop there, Ryan. Congratulations. Next one takes you to Ann Coulter. No collusion and no wall. I'd prefer collusion and a wall. Wow. Sounds like Ann Coulter drank the haterade. Okay, well, you see what's up. Ann Coulter is fake, paid for, MAGA. Look, the fact of the matter is that I would call Ann Coulter sort of a political mercenary, if you will. Whoever wants to kick down the coin has got Ann Coulter on their side. You see how it works. Q says fake, fake, fake. And I think we knew that already. Let's move on to 3193. 23 minutes after the hour of 9, we get this sweet little picture right here. Entitled Love of Country. Q says flags out. Have a great night. Q. This picture seems to be a stock picture, and it came up on a few things, but it also came up on this USA.gov. And what I found curious about this guide to displaying the American flag was that if you remember from last week, I believe I shared a tweet, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was from. I think it was from the Air Force, talking about how to display the American flag. And it made me think of a couple different things. Q has used the American flag as a marker, so I'm wondering if this means that maybe we are going to look at one of the first placeholders that could be coming that Q has talked about. I'm not so sure, but I did find it curious that it was referring to displaying the American flag and that we had seen that before. It just seemed very interesting, and it was right around the last time that the Q posted this American flag. Now check this picture out too. You guys remember this, where Hillary's struggling up the steps? Oh my goodness, oh, help the girl. Well, I'm not so sure that that's the same house. The one in this picture looks to be a little bit more of a yellow house. But if you look at the neighborhood, it looks like a lot of these houses have kind of a similar build. So it could have been in the same neighborhood. But there you go. That's what I got. You guys can let me know what you think the reference to the flag might be. I want to point out that this could be referencing back in February when President Trump was talking about 4th of July, having this grand celebration, massive fireworks and entertainment. Who knows? Maybe even Sir Patrick Mack will MC that bad boy. Who knows? You can let me know. Q says flags out. Have a great night. Wow, he told everybody on Twitter the other day to have a great day, and of course the Twitter sphere melted down. So this have a great night, have a great day, there must be some sort of significance to this have a great night, have a great day. You guys can tell me what you think below. 3194. 28 minutes after the hour of 9. Q is responding to a previous bread in regards to the wall. Let me just show it to you real quick. You're not going to be able to see. Sorry for that nasty picture right there. I'll cover it up with this. But it's a tweet talking about how the wall is already being built. And Q says fake news media. Yeah, they've been saying that this wall hasn't been built, but we've seen video of it being built. It's fake. It's fake. Mega. Let's move on to this most recent post, 22 minutes after the hour 12. This is a C-SPAN link here to an oral argument. And as you can see, baiters included. Now, I posted this for you guys who follow me on Twitter. I posted this like last week, and it was just the audio. And this is pretty long. It's about 54 minutes. We're not going to play much of this here. But you guys can go listen to it for yourself. Now, I will tell you, as somebody who is a professional entertainer and who knows, in particular, voice acting really well, it is not her. It is way too spry. The voice is just way too strong. The timbre is not the same. It's not her. That's all I'm saying. But I will let you guys check this out because C-SPAN is one of the #1 companies that loves to hit me with any kind of copyright or anything like that. So unfortunately, even if I wanted to play that for you, I cannot. But you can go check it out for yourself, and I think you'll see what I mean. There's just too much power behind that voice. And it cues you into 1956 for those of you who want to watch it, 19 minutes and 56 seconds in. What is RBG's current state of health? Well, I imagine she's probably on ice somewhere. Our pictures being avoided for a reason. Yeah, look, this has been, particularly for those of you who are on Twitter sharing a lot of memes and stuff like that, we've been having a blast with this, right? But we haven't seen her. We have no idea what's going on with her. And of course, this is giving the unhinged left fuel for calling us conspiracy theorists. But the fact of the matter is, where's Bader?
I assure you that I can still squat 450 pounds.
I don't know if that's true. All right, well, I think we all have our own ideas as to Bader's current state of health and what's really going on and why these pictures are being avoided for a reason. Pics in and out of home, in and out of cars are easy. Yeah, it's pretty easy to stage those, and I think we all know what's up, and I think Q is letting us know that they know that we know what's up. All right, kids, those are your Q posts. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who do that already. I greatly appreciate the help. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome to you. Please understand that from time to time you're going to get unclicked and unnotified and unsubscribed. Yes, it's going to happen to you from time to time. Do me a favor, just keep checking back, keep re-clicking yourself and resubscribing. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much for all you do. My alternate links are down below. My Gab, I've been kicked off my Gab, so for those of you who are looking off for Gab, I'm not really sure what's up. It is not recognizing my email, and it seems to be a real common thing happening to pretty much all my social media platforms. I think they're just really trying to kick me off. So that being said, until I can get back on Gab, I cannot post on there. I can't even log into it, so please don't even ask. I can't bother. BitChute is also a little bit squirrely. I can get some videos on there. Other videos aren't going, but my BitChute link is down below. I'm also over here on Twitter at IPOT1776. That's at IPOT1776. So please check me out over there if you can. My email is also down below, and my P.O. box is down below. And if you'd like to support the channel, my Patreon link is down below. All those links are down below. All right, kids, this is Sir Patrick Mack. Until next time, stay free.